Today, I want to tell you a great story. Lean back. The story begins with a box packed with vintage, rare German microphones. Awesome mics from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. And the whole story ends with the release of a unique and awesome sounding IR pack. The story begins at the headquarters of BEYERDYNAMIC in Heilbronn, and it ends in Sweden, in Örebro, at Jens Bogren's Fascination Street Studios. I told you it's a cool story, right? I have officially teamed up with BEYERDYNAMIC and with Jens Bogren, and Jens and me have come together to create an IR pack using all the amazing contemporary microphones from BEYERDYNAMIC, but also going back to 100 years of BEYERDYNAMIC history and using all their vintage microphones that you can't find anywhere else. And believe me, we have created some amazing sounding IRs. In this video, we want to take a deep dive into the creation process, into the making of the BEYERDYNAMIC IR pack. You will see Jens and me creating our producer IRs, the technical IRs. For the first time, Jens even did some bass IRs. You will see me unpacking those vintage microphones. You will see me traveling to Sweden, and we're gonna have a lot of fun together. It's time to celebrate 100 years of BEYERDYNAMIC history. Let's get started. It all started when I visited BEYERDYNAMIC, the factory in Heilbronn, and they showed me how they built their mics, really cool people there. And then they told me, hey, we got a whole bunch of vintage, unique microphones. Do you want to try them? Is there something you want to do with them? And I was like, oh my God, of course I want to try your vintage ribbons from the 60s and cool dynamic mics from the 1920s. And I'm going to put them in front of a guitar cap and try to get some awesome, unique guitar tones. And those are all mics in there.
These are all basically in the front, all vintage microphones, and you have all the vintage headphones and of course all stuff that we have done in the past.
So that includes stuff from the 30s and 40s and 50s and...
That's our decade collection of microphones, wow. Exactly, yeah. Wow. So, yeah, let's put some out.
Yeah, let's take them out. And at some point, I called my friend Jens Bogren, who is also a big BEYERDYNAMIC fan. I said, like, look what I got here. He said, like, let's do something together. And that's how the whole idea of creating a BEYERDYNAMIC IR pack with Jens and me came together. So now we are ready to go back in time, and let's start when all those microphones arrived here. Use the chapters below to navigate. This is probably going to be a long video. Enjoy. We have just received 21 BEYERDYNAMIC microphones, current BEYERDYNAMIC microphones and historic ones from the 100 years of BEYERDYNAMIC history that you and me have never seen and never heard before. Let's see what we got. M61, dynamic mic from the 70s. Oh. They even included a new measurement frequency chart here. And it's the only one that doesn't have the typical M name. So this is a SoundStar microphone. Look at this. They actually measured all the microphones for us and make sure they are working. So this is M320, a ribbon mic, and it even has like different modes. One is called Musik and the other one is called Sprache. So music and speech, I guess high frequency boost or something? I don't know. Wow. M360.
That's also a ribbon microphone from the 60s.
Okay, and then we have something called, I think, M500, limited edition. It's introduced to exactly match the first M500 model introduced in 1969. Used by Kenny Rogers, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Dolly Parton. And this is what it looks like. Awesome. Okay, so we decided to put the ribbon mics here and the dynamic mics over there. This one I think is their kick drum mic. So we're going to try how this one sounds on a guitar cab. This is a dynamic microphone. Oh, this one looks historic. Look at this. M26C, made in West Germany. All right. Oh, with a Kohle connector. Guess we need an adapter for this one. And here we got the M65, also with a weird connector.
I think it was supposed to use at conferences or boardroom tables.
Okay, conference
Can also
mic.
be used for telephone and video conferencing systems.
Can also be used for heavy metal guitar tones. Next one, M260. That looks nice. Then we have the M410. Oh yeah. Which looks actually pretty modern in a way. West Germany. So that's before 1990 at least. Then we have the M67. This one is fun because it kind of looks like a SM57. Right? Long version. Maybe it's the SM57 killer. Nice color again. M69. Next up is the M24. Wow. Boom. This one's heavy.
That's maybe the oldest one because from the 1950s.
Wow. Okay. Really heavy. I think this is the last vintage one. Ooh. Light bulb mic. Wow. This must be the oldest one. M20. Kugelmikrofon. So this is an Omni mic. That must be seriously old. Then we thought about doing some experiments with the DT990 Pro BEYERDYNAMIC headphones. Because, you know, dynamic headphones are pretty much the same thing like dynamic microphones, just the other way around. So look at this. This one has an XLR out. So we're also going to try this, and it's probably going to capture a lot of low end. Really curious to find out how BEYERDYNAMIC headphones sound on a Mesa Boogie cab. I told you this will be a long journey, so we're going to start with just throwing up all those mics to a V30 speaker just to find out which ones of them are usable for metal guitar tones and which one are not. But I think at least I will try to capture IRs of all of them, because, you know, those are historic microphones that you can't find anywhere else, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna get some unique results. So let's get to work. I have checked out all the microphones they have sent me, and this has been a lot of fun. And here you can see the mics I fell in love with. I'm gonna use all the microphones, but these will be the main contenders for the IR pack, for the custom mix ready IRs. Now I want to walk you through the 8 models that I'm gonna use. These are both modern BEYERDYNAMIC microphones and historic ones. Let's start with the modern microphones. You might know quite a few of them already. Here we have a real classic. This is the BEYERDYNAMIC M160 super or hypercardioid ribbon microphone that a lot of people use on guitar cabs. It's known for sounding very dynamic for a ribbon microphone, so it doesn't have that huge proximity effect that typical ribbons have, and it sounds a little more in your face, and the mid-range is a little more aggressive. Great microphone on guitar cabs. We've got another modern ribbon microphone, this one here. This is the M130, which I think is BEYERDYNAMIC's most classic sounding ribbon. Figure of 8 pattern, bigger proximity effect, more pronounced low end. Great to be blended with dynamic microphones. Then we've got a few modern dynamic microphones. Let's start with this one, another classic. This is the M88, also known as Phil Collins vocal microphone. This is a rather scooped microphone. Wouldn't be my main guitar cab mic, but it's great as another tool to be blended with other microphones. Then we've got another real classic and maybe Beyerdynamic's most popular microphone. This is the M201. Another dynamic microphone. I think Steve Albini, rest in peace, he once said that if Shure had done the SM57 right, it would have looked or better sounded like the M201. So this is the better 57 for him. It sounds great on snare drum, sounds great on guitar cabs. It's great to be blended with ribbon microphones. Then we've got a third modern dynamic microphone. This is the Beyerdynamic TGI 51, which is the brightest microphone of the whole bunch. I think this one is intended mainly to be used on drums and snares and toms, like where you need a lot of snap and high end. But it's also a great mic on guitar cabs, especially if you blend it with a darker sounding microphone. So those are the modern mics. Let's move on to the classic or historic microphones. And two of them have really blown my mind. They're both from the same origin, like the M160. They're both ribbon microphones. And they also have a 60 in their name. It's the M260 and the big and bulky M360. Both from the 1960s and both wonderful sounding microphones. Both sound just as open maybe as the 160, but not as edgy, which can be good or bad. I think this one is the thickest of the bunch, both the look and the sound. This one is the smoothest, but this one sounds gorgeous. But both those microphones just offer different flavors of the M160 sound, and they have been so helpful. I can't wait to blend them with all the other microphones. Really, really nice. Then finally, we've got another historic microphone, and this one is the oldest of the bunch. This is, look at this. This is the M24 microphone, a dynamic mic. I think this one is from the 1950s or even older. And this one is once again a rather bright and aggressive sounding mic. So, you can bring it very close to the cap so you have enough low end, and it will add a lot of bite. So ironically, the oldest and the most modern microphone are both like the brightest sounding mics. Now it's up to me to find the right beautiful combination of bright and dark, and to create some custom IRs that will help you to create some unique guitar tones and productions. Here we go. Let me show you how I create my IRs. This is a highly creative process. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes it's out of control, sometimes it's chaos. I usually end up with a lot of different IRs that need to be filtered. I use a lot of different cabinet and microphone combinations. Sometimes it's 30, 40, 50 different setups of different cabinets and different mics. I just throw a bunch of microphones 4, 5, 6, 7 microphones in front of 2, 3, 4 4x12 cabinets. And then I just start blending them. I start EQing them, filtering them, just to find whatever sounds great together. So now I want to show you one of those setups, and I want to show you how I turn a bunch of microphones into a hopefully interesting and cool sounding guitar tone. So here we got 2 microphones in front of an Eminence DV77 speaker inside a Mesa cab. And the idea was this: why don't we combine a rather full and warm sounding BEYER microphone with a rather scooped and aggressive sounding dynamic microphone. The Ribbon is the historic M260 and the dynamic mic is the M88. During the process of creating IRs, I use both real tube amps and plugins. And the reason is I want to make sure the IRs sound great in both worlds. So I'm playing the real tube amp and the plugin into the cabinets in the live room. Right now I'm playing a plugin or 2 plugins. The guitar goes into a tube screamer from Universal Audio, and that is going into the Omega Granifier plugin from Newell DSP, but the cab is turned off. From here, I'm going out of the DAW into a Seymour Duncan Power Stage 200 amplifier that is driving the cabinets down there. Here in my mixer you can see the different microphones. So let's start with the Ribbon mic on the DV77. And that sounds really good. Smooth yet aggressive. Isn't that fascinating? That's a mic from the 1960s. I think I should do an IR of that mic in front of that speaker alone. But let's listen to the other microphone, the more scooped and more aggressive sounding M88. Very different mid-range, right? Kind of hollow sounding. So let's try to blend those 2 microphones. Let's start with the Ribbon. And here's the dynamic. Not bad, but let's try to find the perfect balance, the volume balance. And I can also slightly delay both microphones just to get them a little more in phase. I'm gonna switch the phase on one of them so I can hear what's gonna cancel out if I put them together. And the less I hear in that setting, the fuller the combination will sound. You see, the delay helps. Interesting mid-range. Quite a bit more aggressive than the Ribbon alone. But right now I like the combination. Sounds a little more raw than just the Ribbon alone. So this was a Ribbon. Maybe a little distant, and this is together with the dynamic mic. Has some kind of old school raw. I like it. And look what we've got here. This is an oversized Marshall cabinet and it's loaded with Jensen speakers. We are double miking a Jensen Electric Lightning speaker, once again with a Ribbon and a dynamic microphone. The Ribbon this time is the infamous M160 and the dynamic microphone is the TGI-51, which sounds quite open and aggressive. So that combination might be cool or not. Let's find out. Let's check out the microphones on the Marshall cab. So this is our M160 Ribbon. And this is the dynamic mic. Nice old school honky mid-range. Both not great solo, but they might, they might complement each other. So let's bring them together. Yeah, at least a lot better than the single mic. The low end is a little out of control. And you know what? Sometimes I also use the EQ on the Seymour Duncan amp. It has a 4-band EQ. So right now I might try to reduce the low end a little bit. Better. So now we're pumping a little less bass into the cabinet, and that makes the sound tighter. This sounds so much better than the single mics. So this was the ribbon alone. And this is the dynamic. And here's the combination. So that sounds cool. Let's create an IR of that combination. All right. So now you might have understood how I create my IRs. This was one setup, but there will be many, many more setups, and I will use a lot of different microphone combinations, and I will move them and replace them and EQ them and do a lot of stuff like this and end up with a lot of IRs that later will be filtered, so you only get the great sounding ones. You will find the information about the gear that I used for each single IR inside the BEYERDYNAMIC pack in the PDF that comes with the product. So if you're interested, you can look it up. Sometimes I might use several microphones and blend them. Sometimes I might use several microphones on several cabs and blend them. And sometimes I might only use one microphone in front of one speaker. Sometimes I might use EQ or not. Whatever sounds great, because the goal in the end is to create some awesome and also unique and very special sounding IRs. And this is how I do it. And now it's time to pack my bags and to fly to Sweden. I'm gonna visit Jens at Fascination Street Studios, where he will create his producer IRs. I'm coming with a bunch of vintage microphones and some of the new ones. He also has a few Beyer microphones, so that's gonna be so interesting. I'm very excited to see how he's gonna do that. And we're gonna film the whole process, and you are about to watch exactly that right now. Enjoy.
So for my special personalized part of this IR pack that has my own producer IRs, I'm planning on using some of my favorite cabs for rhythm, for lead, and there's also gonna be maybe 1 or 2 bass cabs in there. I'm gonna go crazy with all these old Beyers and new Beyer microphones and find the best sounds and blends that I can possibly get. And I'm really excited to finally get my hands on some of these really rare microphones as well. The first cab that I'm gonna try out is my beloved Mesa cab from late 90s that's been with me for a long time on many albums, and I know that one very, very well. And yeah, let's try them out. Okay, so now we're gonna try something really cool here. This is the M260. This is new old stock from the 60s. It looks amazing. I couldn't believe that it was actually not a remake or something. It's the original, looks like new. Let's see how it can handle some real metal tones, right? So my method for creating this pack when it comes to the producer part of it is that I'm gonna use a Dynamount robotic microphone stand to capture each of those microphones in their ideal positions, and then I'm gonna do like a post blend and craft finished mix ready IRs out of this. Not bad. I'm gonna have to crank the preamp a little bit. This might look a little bit intimidating, but this is the cross connector for the studio, where I can connect all the control rooms and recording rooms together. These are a bunch of the preamps that I have. I have some more in control room and racks, but this is most of the channels. It's like 30 channels or something here. For the ribbons, one of my favorite preamps is this Massenburg one, GML. And it's transformerless, it's very clean and has a tremendous nice and resonance-free high end. I've connected the M260 here. I needed a little bit more boost, so I'm gonna do 2 clicks up and then we go back and have a listen. Okay, let's see if this is better. Okay, that's nice. All right, I do have Buzz Audio Tonic EQ here that I might want to use for this. We'll see in the mix here. Yeah, I probably want to have a little bit more bite on it. This is not the neutral captures we're doing. These are my producer captures, and then I prefer doing that before the AD with analog EQ. This ribbon is also very controlled in its sound. It's impressive that it has this nice, sweet treble for being such an old microphone. I like it. So add a little bit more of the sheen. I did actually add a little bit more of the lows as well. We're talking tiny differences here, 0.5 dB or something. And this is my very center position. I'm gonna capture that one. Now we have captured the center position, 4 different gain levels here as well, just to find the sweet spot of the cabinet. And I usually print at some different levels because depending on how much you push the cabinet and how much the cabinet compresses and distorts, that will affect the frequency response a little bit on the finished IR. Then I'm gonna go back to the Dynamount and try some different positions for this. This being a ribbon, even though it's cardioid in this design, where they basically block the figure 8 with the stuff of the capsule, it will still be a little bit more open for surrounding sounds from the back than a 57, for example. So we will have bigger differences as we move it around. Let's have a listen. I'm gonna loop this a little bit and try to move it. Okay, so here I tried two positioning, a little bit off axis, a little bit further away, one from the left and one from the right. Saved them as presets here in Dynamount, and I preferred when it was a little bit coming from the left like this. Okay, so I'm gonna play back and move between this position and over to this position, and you guys can hear, and you will also hear the sweep when it goes to that position. Yeah, so in the mix I prefer the one with a little bit more bite to it. So we're gonna print that one. So this is now the M201, just straight in to the cone. This is the first time that I try this M201, and it's very, very flat in its response. It's pretty cool, actually. It sounds to me like straight into the cab might be what I would prefer for this one. I would say that's pretty good. I'm gonna try to move this mic a little bit, but let me first just print one of those IRs. So the next position here I'm gonna capture is further away, a little bit off axis and a little bit to the right, like pointing back into the cone. I found a pretty bright and clear one there as well. Usually that's what you need for rhythm guitar sounds in metal. You need it to be clear and pretty precise. So the M201, I can understand why this seemed to be a favorite among a lot of producers. I haven't really worked with this microphone before. But to me it sounds like a 57 that are free from some of those like resonance spikes that a 57 usually carries, and that seemed to fit like rhythm guitar sounds quite well. So you don't get this like spike that you have to go into an EQ and stuff, but it sort of just seemed to land pretty well in there. So this microphone I'm definitely keeping, and I am gonna incorporate it into my everyday production life. Okay, so this next mic that I'm trying is the M88, technically speaking in its TG version, which is the live version with an enforced front grille. This mic was introduced in '62 and sort of designed to be more of a vocal and kick microphone. I've been using it for kick drums and yeah, also on bass amp or bass cabinets throughout the years. I have occasionally threw it up on a guitar cabinet from time to time, but this time I'm gonna give it the attention it deserves. Okay, so the M88 is pretty edgy. You can hear that it's made to emphasize like the 5-6K of kick drum and vocals, and has a pretty scooped sound to it, which really can fit a metal rhythm guitar sound as well. This is dead center. Let's see how this sounds if we sweep it a little bit. finding an alternative positioning there that I kind of like. This is always a balance one needs to find. Like the further away from the center you get, the more like extra resonances you would get, the more extra boxiness maybe. But this is also part of a character that might be pleasant. So I'm gonna try a few options there, but I'm gonna print this one as well. And what I'm doing here is recording this sweep that we can hear that contains all the frequencies in a sweep sequence. And then we're using a software that computes that into an IR file. And the actual IR file is just a short wave file that we can load it into a loader software, something like Nadir or Libra.
I'm really sorry, but I gotta interrupt you here. But you know what? I got some good news, because the BEYERDYNAMIC IR pack has been released today. And it is Bogren Digital's by far biggest and most versatile IR pack ever. Jens and me kept on working, we just went on, and I think we came up with a pretty nice variety of great sounding IRs. And this IR pack contains over 230 IRs. It covers the entire biodynamic range, it covers 100 years of biodynamic history, 100 years of tones. And you know what? There's not only the full and big version, there's also a free version. Check out the link below. There's a free version to celebrate 100 years of biodynamic. Link below. Now let me quickly give you an overview of the pack. There will be a follow-up video next week where I play guitar and walk you through all the single IRs and all the cool things you can do with this IR pack. But for now, just a quick overview. Let's start with Jens Bogren's producer pack. This one contains IRs for rhythm guitar, for lead guitar, and for the very first time also for bass guitar. When I was already on the way back to Germany, Jens created bass guitar IRs with two of his Unpacking cabinets. So the very first bass IRs from Bogren Digital. Then we have my producer pack. Once again, I used a whole variety of different speakers and different cabs. For the first time, I used my Fryette Deliverance cab, an amazingly full sounding cab loaded with custom Fane speakers. You don't want to miss that one. By the way, if you're a gear nerd, there's a PDF included that where you can look up all the gear and the mics and the combinations and the blends that was used for each of those IRs. That's fun for the nerds. Then we have, for the very first time in Bogren Digital, technical IRs. And this was the idea behind it. We wanted to give you a virtual collection of biodynamic microphones, of the greatest sounding vintage and contemporary biodynamic mics. 9 microphones and the headphone microphone. And we created IRs that are perfectly in phase with each other. That means that you can super easily blend those microphones yourself. You can blend a bright sounding M24 from the 50s with a dark sounding contemporary M130, even though all those microphones were captured at different distances from the cabinets. It's really powerful, it's really easy to find your own tones. And by the way, this was captured using one of the best sounding vintage 30s from 2002 out there. Really, really cool. And finally, we've got the historic part of this IR pack, because we have captured IRs of all the microphones inside that box. Some sounded awesome, some were maybe not intended, not the perfect mics for guitar cabs, but they're great for experiments or whatever you want to do with them. I'm really happy about this because I know this IR pack is not just another IR pack, it is specialist, something that you can't get anywhere else. It takes us through 100 years of German microphone history, and it kind of packs those mics into a time machine so you can create modern metal tones with them. How cool is that? All right, now it's time to say happy birthday to BEYERDYNAMIC, and thank you so much for letting us do this. Time to celebrate 100 years of tone. Thanks a lot to Jens as well. This was a lot of fun. Thanks to Bogren Digital. Please check out the links below to the pack. Grab the free pack. Have fun with it. Leave a comment, and I see you next week in another video where I will walk you through all those amazing IRs. Jens will also do a follow-up video. There will be a lot more content. This was a long video. I'm happy that you're still here. Thanks for watching. I see you in hell, motherfuckers. Bye bye.